things about how to select the right trade show. And thanks again for, like I say, being the first guest on our podcast. And yeah, let's kick off by why don't you tell us a bit more about your background and your experience with the world of trade shows over the last few decades.
Yeah, I almost hate to say 5 decades, but that's how long it's been. You might know I started my career as an exhibitor for a little longer than a decade. I was in the metalworking industry, and I've had the personal experience of learning everything that I'm going to share with your audience today. I lived some of the horror stories and some of the incredible successes related to trade shows. And after the first decade, I discovered a problem with sales lead follow-up after trade shows. So I think you know that I started a national or international marketing services business that actually processed sales leads for exhibiting companies. And I gained a lot of statistics that I'll share with you here today if time permits or if the opportunity permits. So I was in the service business for about 2 decades. And then in 2009, I sold my company to one of its biggest customers. And I started to nurture my passion to teach people some of the things that I learned. So from 2009 up until today, I'm more of an exhibitor educator and trainer. I've been a guest speaker at the exhibitor show in Las Vegas for 18 years. So I've kind of been around the block, and I look forward to sharing some successes today with your audience.
Fantastic. I mean, that is a lot of experience that you actually have. And a lot of it has actually been gained from all aspects of exhibiting, right? As an exhibitor, as a trainer, and then also supporting your customers as well.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, the first question is, over your past 5 decades, what kind of mistakes have you seen exhibitors making when it comes to selecting the right trade show?
Well, there are quite a few mistakes. The one I still see today is that exhibitors, they seem to just show up and show off and then expect the best with no planning. Exhibiting is a strategy more than it's a tactic. And I think a lot of exhibitors are missing the opportunity to strategize what their expectations are from the trade show.
Yeah.
Another mistake I see them making is after the show, they just send all of the sales leads to the sales force and they hope they're going to follow the leads up. And I call that kind of exhibiting by accident instead of on purpose.
Yeah.
Salespeople, it's impossible for them to follow up the leads. And that's really a subject for another podcast if you want to do that. Those are the 2 biggest problems: showing up, showing off, expecting the best, and then sending the leads to the sales force.
Yeah. Another aspect that I find quite amazing is that a lot of companies exhibit in silo, from their exhibiting strategy. Okay, so it's not as though they're actually aligning it with their sales and marketing strategy or their business growth strategy. An exhibitor will actually come along and say, "Oh, I've got some cheap space for you. Do you want to take it?" And they'll jump at the chance, but at no point do the exhibitors actually say, "Well, it needs to be part of our strategy," and they shouldn't be making those decisions at the very last minute to exhibit, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so in your opinion, Richard, what are the most critical factors that companies should be evaluating and selecting a trade show to participate in? I mean, why? When you look at your business growth plan, I mean, what kind of things should you be actually asking yourself before you decide to exhibit?
Well, I compare trade shows to trade publications. When you advertise in a publication, the only thing that the publisher has to offer you is their circulation and their readership.
Yeah.
The same in a trade show. The only thing a trade show has to offer exhibitors is attendees and booth visitors. Yeah. It's kind of a parallel. It's basically the same, although trade publication advertising is a lot less expensive than trade show exhibiting. But I think I think exhibitors should be asking their trade show organizers a couple of questions like what did the organizer do to invite attendees to the trade show? Who
Yeah.
are the attendees? They should be asking
Yeah.
the trade show organizer, who are these people?
Yeah.
We're exhibiting, let's say, grinding equipment. Is there anybody that's in your expected audience suitable or potentially a grinding machine customer?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
it's okay to talk with your trade show organizer and ask them those questions. I can give you a horror story example of what actually happened to me as an exhibitor in Los Angeles when I was in the metalworking industry. I made the decision with our sales force to exhibit in a trade show, and we were going to spend $55,000 on this event. And we find out when we get there, after the money is all spent, that the attendees consisted of baby buggies and balloons because
Oh,
trade
wow.
the trade show organizer ran ads in local newspapers just to generate names of attendees. So while the aisles were full, they were all full of the wrong people. So it's not wrong for exhibitors to ask their organizer what they're doing to invite
Yeah.
attendees and what kind of quality those attendees are going to be.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, they should be asking things like, where is the marketing campaign, okay, to get these attendees to come in, and what does that look like? And the other thing is looking at what is the audience persona of these attendees that they're actually targeting. Is it, the C-suite? Okay, is it the middle management, or is it going to be students? Okay, so there's a lot of different types of attendees, and I think understanding what amount of your target audience is going to be at the event, because if the organizer is saying to you, oh, we're going to have 50,000 exhibitors, but your specific target audience is only going to be about 250 people, then that is going to dictate either a very what's the word I'm looking for? A very sort of strategic approach in terms of getting to those 250 people, or it means that you don't actually have enough people to go on target, so you should not be exhibiting there, right?
Right. When I was an exhibitor, I used to ask the show organizer if they were running advertising in our industry's publication, because those are the people that we wanted at the show,
Yeah.
not just the general public. So as you mentioned, 50,000 attendees, how many of those
Yeah.
attendees are really qualified prospects?
Absolutely. And do you have any other question that they should be asking when the sales rep from the organizer comes? Should they really be, asking for, the smaller details? I mean, what kind of things actually make a huge difference when it comes to selecting a show,
I think
aside from the audience?
the biggest question is to ask for the definition of the word drayage. That's a
Okay.
that's a term that's used pretty loosely in trade shows, and it's not defined until
Yeah.
after the show, generally when the invoice arrives.
Yeah.
So I would ask the trade show organizer to define that term. And then other creature comforts for the exhibitors. Are they going to have any Wi-Fi in the building? Is the Wi-Fi
Yeah.
free? Do we have a way
Yeah.
of communicating with the outside world during the show? So
Yeah.
yeah, what are those questions?
All right. Okay, great stuff. As you know, we work a lot with exhibitors ourselves, and when we start to look at the strategy, I get a lot of our customers saying, the question that we ask is, why are you exhibiting? And the most common answers I get are, my competitors are going to be there. We have always exhibited there, and what will the industry think if we don't exhibit this year? And then as I alluded to before, I got a great offer from the organizer, so I think it's it'd be amiss of me not to take advantage. I've got like 50% discount or something like that. Now, are these ever valid reasons not to exhibit? Or to exhibit?
I'm just going to answer that by saying no. They're not
Right.
valid. I guess they're worth consideration, but they're certainly not valid reasons.
Yeah.
If you look at all of the statistics, and I'm sure you know them as well as I do, the number one objective of exhibitors is to generate sales leads.
Yeah.
That's the number one. And again, I refer to that comment about exhibiting by accident instead of on purpose. a strategy is very important. Just because the organizer is giving away free booth space or what, you know, trade show expenses rising, it's getting more costly to go to these trade shows. So I would again get back to strategic reasons for exhibiting. Now, that's not to say that brand awareness and cross-selling are not viable objectives for the exhibitor, but strategy, I guess, is the number one word.
Right, okay. All right, and this leads me on to my next question to you, Richard. I wonder if you can actually clear this debate up that I constantly have with sales and marketing people within the clients that we actually work with. Is exhibiting a sales or a marketing exercise?
Is it sales or marketing?
Yeah. Are exhibitions a sales or a marketing activity?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Yes to both. I
Yes
think
to both.
I think they can be categorized as sales and marketing, but it's dependent. You know, it's a sales function in the eyes of the salesperson. It's a marketing function in the eyes of a marketing person. If the sales force wants to go there to generate sales leads that they're going to convert to sales, it's certainly a sales function. If the marketing department is going there for brand awareness and new product announcements and to cross-sell products, that's more of a marketing venture. So there is some combination of sales and marketing. So again, I jokingly say the answer to that question probably yes, sales and marketing.
Yes, to both. Okay. So just going on from that, who should take accountability then? If it's both, should both departments take accountability for the exhibition strategy, or should there, be presidents for one or the other?
You're really hitting my hot buttons here with that question, because in my entire career, I learned that when I was an exhibit manager, we used to, I call it the blame game. The sales department blames the marketing department for poor success, and the marketing department blames the sales force. I think that through all the years I was an exhibitor, it was the sales force that was held accountable. But they had an easy out by saying that either the trade show was no good, it wasn't effective, or the leads were no good. What I teach in my programs, as again, you probably know, is I try to lift up the exhibit manager and make the marketing department responsible for the trade show. And there's a way to do that in the way the leads are managed after the show. So if I don't know who else you're going to have as guests, but most people will say that the sales department determines whether the trade show was a success. The accountability falls on sales, but I think it should be in the marketing department.
Right. Okay. All right. So they should be dictating to sales exactly how they should be following up, and they should be really doing the preparation by involving everyone in the business. Would you say?
I teach marketing people or the exhibit managers actually how to do the follow-up for the sales force. I don't want to get into that muddy water right here. But there's a way for the marketing department to separate the prospects from the non-prospects and only give the prospects' names to the sales force to follow up on first.
Right.
So that's why, again, I say the accountability could and should be in the marketing department.
Right. Okay. All right. That's great. And recently, especially after the pandemic, there's been a big trend for companies to actually hold their own events and not go to exhibitions. So a great example is Apple. So they actually have their own launch events, and I haven't seen them exhibiting at a lot of shows. I do know that they support a lot of their vendors, especially the business vendors, for their equipment. So why do you think that is, that a lot of companies have they fallen out of love with exhibitions, or is actually holding their own event a lot more productive in terms of return on investment on objectives?
Well, let me go back to the trade show organizer again and the quality of the attendance. If you think of the original or the exhibit company, like you said, Apple.
Yeah.
Not too many people can relate to the size of Apple, but for the medium-sized company, if you think about it, they have databases of names, they have customers, they have prospects, they have warranty people, they have service files. They have a better potential list of attendees than the trade show could ever come up with.
Yeah.
So it's my contention that the exhibitors could have their own trade shows in their showrooms and in their demonstration areas, and they can use their list to invite their best prospects to the show.
Yeah.
So I think that pendulum is swinging. The more expensive it is to exhibit in a trade show today, the more logical it seems to be to have your own trade show.
Yeah.
And I frankly see a lot of that. I've done a lot of in-company workshops to prepare the company for their own event. And exhibit builders like that because exhibit builders can come in and convert the showrooms to a trade show display.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely,
I think there's a growing, I think the pendulum is shifting to in-house events. The more expensive it gets to exhibit, the more logical it seems to be to have your own event.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously there's the other big reason is why would you want to share your internal company database and invite people and have them visit your competitors at the trade show?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's always kind of been a bugbear of mine is that exhibitors, obviously, the organizers have the exhibitors invite all of their attendees, but at the same time, they have their competitors in the room, and it does create a bit of a contradictory situation as far as the exhibitor is concerned, in that they're inviting their own customers, and at the same time, they're also exposing them to all of the competitors.
Exactly. And exhibitors can bring their sales force in from all over the country to work in their company's showroom, if you will.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
absolutely.
still have the engagement and
Yeah. Well, you can still have, you can raise the brand awareness, you can bring your prospects as well as your customers. And one of the great advantages, I think, one of the best ways to create an engagement strategy is to actually have your customers come in on your booth and have them talk to your prospects, right? I think that as far as generating more sales from trade shows is concerned, that is always a great strategy.
absolutely. You have an in-house testimonial program.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good thinking.
Great stuff. Yeah. Another question I have is, does the size of your booth and the location really matter when you're actually selecting a trade show? I remember starting my career, and the reason I started Expo Stars was that I was an exhibitor, and we went to Navy Pier in Chicago at a show called AdTech, and we had a small 10 by 10, as you call it in the US. In Europe, we call it a 3 by 3. We were actually at the back of the hall. And that obviously led me to actually walking the show floor and actually seeing not a lot of engagement going on. And that's how I actually ended up with Expo Stars. But so does the location and the size really matter for you to actually have a really successful show?
I don't really think so. I've had the experience of having both. I've had a lot of 10 by 10 displays when I was an exhibitor. It really depended on the size of the trade show. I wouldn't want to exhibit in an auto show, a car show with a 10 by 10 booth and expect to look like there's any prominence to your company. Then it's the bigger the better. But it depends on the trade show and the expected audience. I never minded having a small booth in the back of the show because I used very targeted pre-show promotion that told people where I was going to be. So they found us. So my booth location within the show was not really that much of a concern, but I would say, again, it depends on the number of expected attendees and the size of the overall show based on the overall number of exhibitors. But I don't think size is that much of a differentiator.
Right. Okay. All right. So if you had any tips for the ideal location of a booth for an exhibitor, so if they're considering if they get put in front of them a show floor plan, where is the ideal spot? I mean, this is one I've always kind of been lost with, because a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't be at the front because people are rushing by and they don't want to stop. And then you have people saying, well, you should be next to a cafe area where you can get, more visibility. So what do you think is, the optimum sweet spot for the location?
Always near the food,
Okay.
always near the bar.
All right.
Because, and you just touched on it, because there are a lot of people sitting at tables looking out on the trade show floor. There are a lot of people leaning against the bar, looking out on the
Yeah.
trade show floor. So I was always near the food and near where the bar was. It's always good to be up front, but naturally the trade show organizers put their anchor exhibitors up there, the big ones, the long-term exhibitors, because those are who gets seen when visitors come into the show. But as they walk into the show and they start trickling down the aisles, exhibitors feel that they're going to get lost. I go again back to pre-show promotion. If you do a good job pre-show promoting where you're going to be in the trade show, your prospects will find you.
Excellent. All right. As you wind down your career, Richard, what would you say, where is the world of trade shows actually going in the next 20 to 30 years? Are we going to be talking about the same things that we were, I mean, today we're still talking about the same things as we were 20 or 30 years ago. Are we going to be doing the same in about 20 to 30 years' time? Where do you see the world of trade shows developing, or is it always going to be the same challenges?
That's an excellent question. I really, the fortunate part of having been involved in this for 5 decades is to have already seen an evolution. And I think the more costly trade shows become, the more expensive they are to exhibit, the more I think the terms like, have you heard of return on objective, ROO?
Yeah.
Have you heard the term ROE, return on experience?
Yeah.
I think those are going to disappear. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be more and more focus on ROI, return on investment.
Yeah.
Because from a monetary standpoint, the chief financial officer in that C-suite you mentioned earlier is starting to ask the question, what are we getting for all this money we're spending in the trade shows?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the number one objective of exhibitors is to generate leads. The biggest problem exhibitors have is lead follow-up. I think answering that lead follow-up problem is going to be critical because, in my opinion, sales leads are the seeds of sales. And I think there's going to be a lot more focus on the results of the show. What did we get from the exhibit? Not whether we had padding under the carpet or not whether we had LED signs instead of electric. It's going to be what did we get from that trade show? So I think to answer your question, the focus of attention is going to be on the results of the trade shows. They're never going away. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Never going
Oh,
away.
absolutely.
That face-to-face marketing opportunity will never go away. And I proved in all of my years in the show business that trade shows are the most cost-effective form of marketing communications today. I can prove that statistically. Unfortunately, they're the most expensive. So cost justification is going to be critical.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think, what role do you think things like AI and technology have to play? I mean, are they? I don't think they're actually going to replace that human-to-human element at all, but I think they can play a role in actually enhancing that human-to-human engagement. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. I'm personally dipping my toe into the water of AI, and it's incredible. What's coming in that is exciting. It shouldn't be scary. It's really exciting. Lee, we all experienced what happened after COVID when all of the organizers tried to go to digital platforms, and we eliminated that face-to-face opportunity. We saw what happened there. It didn't work too well. So face-to-face is never going back. Look how it's come back so quickly since 2020.
Absolutely, yeah.
It has just popped back up like a mushroom. So I think that's going to stay. And to answer your question, yeah, AI is coming big time. It's radically different right now. It's unknown, really, but a lot of companies are using it, and I think it's going to play a big part.
Oh, absolutely. Great stuff. Richard, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on this inaugural podcast episode of the Expo Factor. Thank you again for all your sharing your wisdom. And I wish you, really good luck with your future endeavors with your training. And I hope to catch you one day over in Orlando. I'm sure our paths will cross.
I'm sure I will. I'm only 5 hours away. And if I can, Lee, if you don't mind, can I shamelessly plug my new book?
Yes, absolutely. That would be fantastic. I've
It's
got one
called,
of your books actually.
do you?
I've got your bio that you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So please go ahead.
this one is more for exhibitors. This is called Trade Shows Don't Cost, They Pay. It usually sells for $14.95 on Amazon.com, but any of your viewers, you send me an email, I'll send you an autographed copy for $10. I'll save $5 for you. So either send me an email at richard@exhibitortrainingwebinar.com, or you can text me at 630-642-6500, and I'll be glad to get you a copy.
Fantastic. I was just about to ask you where they can find you, but you've done that absolutely brilliantly. Thank you, Richard. I wish you the best for the rest of the day, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lee, and thanks to your audience. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I've stopped recording. Right, how did you think that went?
I think it went pretty well. How about you?
Yep, it was pretty cool. We got there. I think it was a bit shorter. We got 20 minutes. So I think that was a good spot, actually.
Good.
20 minutes.
Is that how much we used? 20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good between 20 to 30 minutes. If you can condense some really good content into that time frame, that makes for a really good podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and record the intro and the outro with some of the summary that we've talked about. And then what I'll do is it will take us about a week to put it all together. And then as soon as I've got the finished article, I will share the links with you. And then, feel free to share it on social media.
Good. I'm curious, who is this going to? Who is your audience? Are they organizers, exhibitors, both?
Everyone in the food chain.
Good.
So we work with organizers. What we do is we run some exhibitor success programs for them. We work with exhibition stand builders. So they bring us in to add value to their stand build by hiring our booth professionals. And then, of course, we work with the exhibitors directly to provide them with the booth staff, the strategy, and also the upskilling their booth staff in terms of how to engage the attendees in conversation.
I think what you're doing with booth staffing is brilliant. I understand, though, and I can relate to the fact that it's probably a very difficult sell. But when you do get it sold and when you get your people in the booth, I think that can be magical. I'm going to share with you something that I'm sure you can use in that regard.
Okay.
In the late 1980s, I sent a poll to 4,000 salespeople, and I asked them what questions they would like to have the answers to before they ever follow up on a sales lead.
Yeah.
And those 5 questions are what your people can be asking visitors when they're working in your client's booth.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are they doing? Are they considering the purchase? If so, when? Are they the person who makes the buying decision? Do they have money to spend? Those are conversational questions that you can gain answers to and give those answers to the sales force. That was my whole business. That's what I did as a business. It was magical.
That's exactly what we do. We have a process called BANTER. So it's a framework. So budget, authority, need, timing, and then the emotional relationship, at the end. So banter, when you actually score a lead, do they have the budget? Do they have the authority? Do they have the need? When are they likely to make the decision? And then lastly, what does our emotional relationship look like with them?
I'm excited for you. I mean, that's really exciting. I wish you the
Yeah.
best with that.
Okay, that's great. Wonderful.
Have you
So
got-
appreciate.
Do you have AI
Sorry?
summarizing this meeting?
Yep. So I have an AI note taker who summarized the meeting.
Will you send
And
me that?
I'll send you that as well. Yeah.
Perfect, okay.
Excellent. Richard, I wish you a great rest of the day, and I'll be in touch with you with the final episode. Yeah.
Good. Great talking with you. Thanks, Lee.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.